Hello everyone, my name is Super13 and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we are going to see if we can beat Pokemon Fire Red with a team of only one Pidgey. Pidgey is a subpar first route Pokemon with very low base stats. Its best stats are in attack and speed, but at a total of 251, it's one of the weakest Pokemon in the franchise. Luckily in Gen 3, normal and flying attacks are all physical based, so it can make use of that attack stat. Its defenses, and especially its special defense, are very poor, and as a lot of its weaknesses go off the special stat like electric and ice, it's not going to be an easy challenge by a long shot. I'm especially terrified of the Lieutenant Surge and Lorelei battles. Its moveset is also extremely lacking, with the best move it gets by level up being Wing Attack at only 60 base power, and its TM moves do not get any better, with the only coverage it gets coming in the form of Toxic and Steel Wing. Here are the rules: I can only use Pidgey in battle. I can catch Alpha Pokemon for HMs, but they cannot be used in battle. I will be using no items in battle, only outside of battle and held items. And there will also be no cheating or exploit. And before we get into the challenge, be sure to hit like and subscribe if you do enjoy this type of content, and without further ado, let's get into the challenge. Starting the challenge, I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to make Pidgey our starter Pokemon, replacing Charmander in the process. I had the rival pick Squirtle, as its final evolution Blastoise is very defensive and will have access to super effective moves like Ice Beam later in the game. Our Pidgey is quiet natured, meaning more special attack, less speed, which is really terrible, but I didn't reset as the run was going to be hard enough anyway. I named it Tabby. I was going to name it Tommy if it was male, because at the time of the run I was watching The Disaster Artist. Very good movie about the room, which is an absolute masterpiece of a movie.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi.
Pidgey.
I knew for the first gym battle I would need to grind, as Brock has rock-type Pokemon which resist both normal and flying-type moves. While I was in the area I went west of Viridian to grind off Wild Mankey. Specifically Mankey because they give effort values in attack, which for those of you who don't understand EV training, it means Pidgey will get more boosts in attack each level up the more Mankey I defeat. I went into the Brock battle at level 20 and it was very evident that I needed vast amounts of luck to even get through at this level. I would need all of my attacks to be critical hits, as they are not very effective. Coupled with the 6 defense curl boosts that Geodude uses, it is a painfully slow battle. Eventually I can defeat the Geodude, but now I'm on low health for the Onyx. The Onyx is the threat, as it can use Rock Tomb, which is super effective. I have to use Sand Attack and pray that it uses up all 10 PP of Rock Tomb and misses every single time. Now that relies too much on RNG to be even viable, so what I did was I ground up to level 25 to learn Wing Attack. This is the strongest move Pidgey learns from level up, and is pretty much the only good attack it learns in general. Yeah, that move pool isn't looking too funky fresh. At level 25 with Wing Attack at our disposal, the battle was a whole lot easier. The Geodude went down in only a few uses of the move, but Onyx was a bit trickier, as I used Sand Attack first to try and stop it hitting Rock Tomb as often, but of course that idea didn't work as planned. But since we are so over leveled, it doesn't even matter that much anyway, even to a Pidgey, and with that we get the first gym badge and can finally move on. On the way to Cerulean I picked up the Dome Fossil. I know if I didn't steal this joke again like my last video, you'd all ask why I stopped. In fact, everyone ask anyway, comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. When I got to Cerulean I went for the rival battle first, and his team was no match for my overleveled Pidgey, as a Pidgeotto was a 2-hit KO, as was its Squirtle. His Ratatta and Abra were both 1-hit wins, and that was the easiest rival battle in the history of rival battles. But will Misty be a challenge? The answer was in fact yes, she was. The Staryu was very easy to knock out, as it only needed a single wing attack, but a Starmie could have easily been a knockout as well, but it lived on the smallest of slivers of HP and got healed up. I would have won if Quick Attack was even quicker than Misty's Super Potion, but sadly Pidgey got taken out by Water Pulse. I went north to do a bit of grinding on the way to Bill's house and went back into the Misty Battle at level 31. Now this should be a whole lot easier, and indeed it was. Staryu was a one-shot like last time, but this time Starmie just gets into range to be taken out by 2 wing attacks rather than surviving. It only took a few more levels, but that's the next gym badge achieved, and moving on to the SSN for the next rival battle. He starts with Pidgeotto that as usual goes down to a wing attack and a quick attack. Raticate falls easier, needing only just a wing attack. Kadabra may have great special attack, but its defenses are poor, as it goes the same way as Raticate, using 1 wing attack. And finally, Wartortle survives an initial wing attack but faints to another one. Again, a very easy rival battle. Next up on our journey is the Electric Gym, which is going to be a real pain as Pidgey is weak to Electric and it has really low special defense. I decided it was worth a try seeing as we're so overleveled. The Voltorb does go down in 2 wing attacks, missing a Screech in the process, which is very helpful. And then his Pikachu comes out and gets off a Thunder Wave. I didn't want to use Wing Attack or Quick Attack as they would activate Pikachu's static ability, but we got paralyzed regardless. That coupled with the damage Pikachu did meant we basically stood no chance against the Raichu and lost the battle. Very expected outcome, so I decided I'll do the gym battle later and went to Rock Tunnel, which is going to be a hellish area as Pidgey has no moves that are good against rock types. We did pick up the TM for Aerial Ace though. In this generation it has the same power as Wing Attack, it just never misses. And there's that slight advantage over Wing Attack that will make it a lot more useful, especially in battles where the opponent likes to use Double Team or Sand Attack. After the absolute slog that is Rock Tunnel, I went straight for Cerulean City to take on the Grass Gym, which is going to be super easy since flying is super effective against grass. It was almost a clean sweep against a whole team, but Vileplume had to be annoying and survive on 1 HP, but it was over before it even started, and just like in my no damage video, I got my 4th gym badge before the 3rd one. I actually lost my first battle against Giovanni in the game corner hideout because Onyx tanked all of my attacks and kept hitting Rock Throw for super low but super effective damage. I tried 4 more times and then got the winning run. This just shows how bad we are against rock types. Giovanni has an Onyx and a Rhyhorn, so the best thing I can do is just Sand Attack and chip away at them, hoping I don't take too much damage in the process leading up to his final Pokemon, Kangaskhan, which is really strong. But on this occasion it wastes its time using Tail Whip and Bite. With Bite being a special move, it won't work with the defense drops from Tail Whip, and we get the victory, and then head to Pokemon Tower for the next rival battle. His Pidgeot is still not too much trouble, but it got in a bit more damage as I misclicked with Sand Attack. Growlithe is the issue as it has the ability Intimidate, which lowers our attack stat. This is going to be a running theme in the upcoming rival battles as this can make all the difference. This time it wasn't too much trouble as the following team members all fell very easily, including his Wartortle. After doing all of the Pokemon Tower mission, I got the TM for Return south of Lavender Town. This is a very strong normal type move that can reach a base power of 102 if the Pokemon using it has max friendship. I also went to get the HM for Fly. Fly is an alright move with 70 base power, slightly stronger than Aerial Ace, but it takes 2 turns to set up and has 95 accuracy. Now that doesn't seem like much, but since Aerial Ace never misses, it's a pretty substantial downgrade. Especially when you consider 2 uses of Aerial Ace can be used while doing a single attack of Fly. It's just not worth it in the long run. After doing all of that further story stuff, I went back to fight Lieutenant Surge and showcase the true power of Return and Friendship, as I swept Surge's team in only 3 hits. It doesn't sound as impressive when you take into account that Pidgey is level 45, but let's ignore that and be happy that I swept the Electric Gym with a Flying type. Fuchsia City is next on the list of locations as it houses the 5th gym, but more importantly the Safari Zone, where we can get the next move for Pidgey. TM47 contains Steel Wing, a 70 base power Steel type move. Steel type moves are super effective against rock types, and despite most of the rock trainers being in the first half of the game, this is still going to be quite useful. Occasionally it can raise the user's defense stats, which is going to be really helpful in longer battles should we get the luck of the boost. Koga battle time, and his team is very high leveled and defensive, meaning this was a struggle. Our first few attempts went really poorly as toxic damage really made this battle unwinnable at times. I even gave Pidgey a Pecha Berry to hold to cure its poison during the battle, and that still didn't do enough. I had to grind up to level 53, and despite a few more failed attempts, I got the gym badge in the end. Covering number 1 was almost a one-shot with Return, but prompted Koga into using a Hyper Potion, giving us 2 free turns to use Aerial Ace. Muck was next, and a Return does massive damage as it raises its defense with Acid Armor and gets Hyper Potioned. The next Return does less than half of last time's, but Pidgey battles through with 2 more Returns and knocks out the Sentient Slime. Coughing number 2 was a one-shot with Return, and finally it's that level 43 Wheezing. A Return does just under half as it misses a Toxic. Another Return almost does the job, but for that invisible Focus Sash that every Pokemon seems to have for some reason. Sludge takes us down to 28 HP, but Koga has no more Hyper Potions, and thus a final attack wins us the battle. The game is starting to get a lot more difficult now, and this is only the beginning of the difficulty spike with Pidgey. And now for the infamous Rival Fival, shout out J-Rose. Our first attempt was not going very well, I have to admit. It starts off with Pidgeot using Feather Dance to lower our attack by 2 stages, and that doesn't make too much damage as it's still fainted, but then the Growlithe comes out and attack is lowered by another stage, making us -3 in attack. Return still does around half damage to Growlithe, taking it out in 2 hits. Execute survives an Aerial Ace very convincingly and uses Stun Spore and taking Pidgey to 8 HP before fainting. Alakazam still has very poor defense and takes a big chunk to a -3 return, and wastes its turn using Future Sight to give me a glimmer of hope before crashing down on me with Blastoise. We did make it pretty far in that battle, but my god was it awful. I have to avoid Feather Dance as it's basically a loss and I'll have to reset whenever it's used. But despite that, the winning run only took 3 more tries to get, and it starts up with Pidgeot using Wing Attack in between a Return and a Steel Wing, which luckily gave us the defense boost. Growlithe lowers our attack and survives a Return on a Sliver but faints to an Aerial Ace and next is Execute, which I have to hope doesn't use Stun Spore. Luckily it does miss the Stun Spore and goes down in 2 hits. Nothing has changed since Alakazam was an Emperor and it faints in 1 hit, and finally Blastoise. Blastoise was probably the best starter for the rival to have in this challenge due to its really high defense stat, but that doesn't stop it being a free hit KO with Return, with Pidgey luckily surviving on only 8 HP. As you can tell, the RNG in these rival battles has to be ungodly for us to win. Not following on from the rival battle, the Giovanni battle was no trouble, as we now have Steel Wing for his Rhyhorns. And Sabrina's battle followed suit with Giovanni, as her team is just a bunch of glass cannons. They can hit hard and fast, but can't take hits. They were all 1-hit KOs. What an underwhelming battle. But unfortunately, Blaine didn't get the memo and is really difficult. This is because he gets 2 Pokemon with Intimidate. My first try, I got to his Arcanine, but the attack drops were too much as I felt I could do a bit more grinding to counteract this. I went into that first try at level 58, and after so many fails I'm now at level 65. That's how bad the stat drops are in a single Pokemon challenge. First, Growlithe lowers our attack, but that doesn't mean too much as it faints to a single return, as does Ponyta. Rapidash can be a bit of an issue, but it misses Fire Blast and 2 attacks are enough, leading to the Arcanine who gets off another Intimidate, making us -2 attack. I started off with a Sand Attack, but that didn't stop a Fire Blast from hitting massive damage and taking Pidgey down to 30 HP. But that was the final Fire Blast that hit, as it could have used any other move to take us out but kept going for Fire Blast, giving Pidgey enough time to use 3 returns and win us the battle. Yeah, that was a bit RNG based with the misses, but either way, we got the badge and now it's time for the final gym battle. All I can do against this Rhyhorn is Steel Wing, so I did that on both of his Rhyhorns and beat them in 2 hits, leading to a 1-hit KO with Return on Dugtrio. Fun fact, in Pokemon Yellow, Dugtrio only has ground type moves, so in reality, you could catch a level 2 Pidgey on Route 1 and beat it with that. Now for the Nidos, and Nidoqueen starts with Body Slam that paralyzes, meaning we can't get poisoned by Poison Point, and a critical hit takes it out, leaving Giovanni with just a Nidoking. It does hit with Thrash for some really good damage, but breaking through the paralysis, Pidgey hits 2 returns and that's the job done. We have all 8 badges, but now the real challenge has begun. I was struggling against the rival battle before the Elite Four, which just proved that I was in no way, shape or form ready to beat this challenge. I did a lot of my grinding west of Celadon on the bikers and it took ages. This is normally where I would plug something, but all I can say is like the video and subscribe. I'm really pleased with all of the support on my videos, and I hope I can keep producing quality content for you all to enjoy. Anyway, my winning run of the rival battle came first try after reaching level 73, and teaching Pidgey the TM for double team over Sand Attack, as that will make our evasiveness better over the course of the whole battle, rather than lowering the accuracy of one single Pokemon. Pidgeot didn't use Feather Dance, making an almost 1-hit KO, but of course it had to survive in the red. The rival now has a Rhyhorn, so Steel Wing is perfect. Rhyhorn missed a Rock Blast and we got the defense boost from Steel Wing, and that is the perfect scenario as we lead into the Growlithe, and down goes that attack stat, woohoo! That still doesn't stop it being a hard hit by a return, and Execute comes in to survive an Aerial Ace and uses Sun Spore. But predicting this, I gave Pidgey a Cherry Berry to heal it right away, and I can just use another Aerial Ace quick as that. Alakazam is still a joke in this run, despite having over 4,000 IQ, it still can't use an attacking move and just faints, leaving his Blastoise. I start with 2 double teams and then go for the returns. Blastoise keeps missing, but it does hit a rain boosted water gun, taking us to 17 HP. But since Pidgey is faster than a military weapon equipped turtle, it can hit first and gives us access to the best trainers in the whole of the Kanto region. Starting with an Ice type user, and for those of you who don't know, Pidgey and Ice don't really mix too well, so this is going to be fun. And by fun, I mean infuriating. I tried this battle so many times at different levels. Since Ice is a special attacking type and super effective on Pidgey, the grind for this is going to be astronomical. During all these attempts, I just ground up on the Elite Four themselves to get to level 91, where despite still relying on insane RNG, I did get a better first round. So let's go over what happens in this battle to win it. So Lorelei starts with a Dugong at level 52, and this is where we need insane luck. I start with Double Team to attempt to avoid any oncoming Ice Beams, but ideally it uses Safeguard. I hit a Return as it goes for Hail, which will do small chunks of damage for the next 5 turns, which is manageable, leading to another 2 returns after she uses a full Restore, which takes out the Dugong. Next comes the Slowbro, which is really tanky but doesn't attack too often, so I set up a second Double Team. 2 more returns can take it out as it misses an Ice Beam. Next is Jinx, who even on my first attempts at level 79 was a one-shot with Return. It has never been a problem for Pidgey, as next is Lapras, which is really defensively strong, but even with its bulk, a critical hit is a one-shot and the perfect scenario leading into her Cloyster, which is a very suggestive Pokemon, but I'm not going to say anything more as this show is going to stay PG-13. We've already had enough adult references in the cast from Solo Run. 2 returns beat the Cloyster and we finally have beat the first hurdle of the Elite Four. It only took 400 years worth of grinding, but now we can finally face Bruno. Bruno has fighting types, but the challenge comes from his 2 Onyxes. It was the first time victory though, as Bruno is terrible and we have the advantage of the super effective moves on his team. But first is Onyx 1 of 2, so I start with Steel Wing, and despite a Rock Tomb lowering our speed, we can still knock it out with 1 more Steel Wing. Then I use Aerial Ace on the oncoming Hitmonchan and get a one-shot. He then uses Machamp, which can take a hit, and if it gets off a cross chop, that's extremely dangerous. Aerial Ace takes it to the red as it uses a Scary Face of all moves, prompting a full restore from Bruno that just gives us another chance to attack and a free hit. Luckily it does miss cross chop and another Aerial Ace can knock it off that final bit of HP. Next Bruno uses Hitmonlee, which as with our speed drops can now hit us first for some pretty good damage with Brick Break. Aerial Ace is still a one shot on it though, despite it taking a bit longer due to a lowered speed. Bruno now just has 1 Onyx left, so I'll just Steel Wing it to death. It does use 2 double edges, but its attack stat is so low it does next to nothing, and with that Bruno is defeated. Agatha is next, and since most of her team is Ghost types, Return isn't going to get too much use here. Agatha's first Gengar can't hit Pidgey with a damaging move, giving us ample time to set up double teams while she does the same. But hers are in vain as Aerial Ace always hits. We set up 5 double teams and take it down in 2 hits. Golbat can be hit by Return since it's not a ghost, and after a full restore from Agatha, it goes down leading to the Arbok, and also falls to Return. Her second Gengar can't use Shadow Ball on us due to us being normal type, and it tries to use Hypnosis, which clearly doesn't work, as it also faints, leaving her with just a Haunter. Haunter can only use Dream Eater to attack us, but that means Hypnosis has to actually hit us, which it doesn't. Pidgey hits level 91, and we can advance to Lance. And Lance is pure trouble as his lead Gyarados has Intimidate, making this battle hard from the word go. It's good to set up double teams on it as it has Dragon Rage, which will do a fixed 40 damage, which at this stage of the game isn't too detrimental. We get a critical hit return and then he sends in Aerodactyl, who is part rock type. Aerodactyl has a really high attack stat and given the chance it will take you out, which of course it does. I tried the battle a few more times before thinking I honestly can't do this and decided to try the whole Elite Four again. I used some PP ups on Return and went around the Kanto region catching Pokemon so I could get the item finder, which is the only way you're able to uncover the item leftovers from where the wild Snorlax were. Leftovers will restore a small amount of HP every turn, meaning that it can give Pidgey an extra turn or 2 at survival in any given battle. After a couple more attempts on Lance and getting the leftovers, I got the winning battle, and my god was it RNG heavy. Starting with Gyarados lowering our attack and us setting up 4 double teams and just going mental with Return. Gyarados did bite away a big chunk of damage, but the leftovers recovered what was lost and Pidgey hits level 93 just before the Aerodactyl. The Aerodactyl does eventually hit an Ancient Power but misses the rest as is taken out by a critical hit Steel Wing. Dragonair 1 of 2 is sent out and luckily misses a Thunder Wave as it goes down to Return, and an Aerial Ace with Dragonair 2 of 2 falling to the same fate. And now with almost max HP, it's time for his powerhouse, the level 60 Dragonite. Return doesn't do as much as I'd hoped due to the Intimidate drop at the start of the battle, as it wastes its time with Safeguard. We hit it again with Return taking about 1/3 as it misses an Outrage. A Citrus Berry takes it out of full restore range, but out of knockout range as well, and then I remembered that he has already used all his full restores as I take out Dragonite with a Steel Wing. I probably should have used something a bit more accurate than Steel Wing, but it doesn't matter as I now get to face the rival, not Bird, who is the current champion, so if the rival uses Feather Dance, it's a reset, no questions asked. I'd be happier if his Pidgeot attacked me as I could just heal the damage with leftovers. Because Pidgeot has Aerial Ace, setting double teams on it is a complete waste of time, so I have to set up on the Rhydon who has super effective moves. It takes a whole while to whittle it down with Steel Wing and hopefully I can get the defense boost or two, but that would then lead into Alakazam who is hardly a threat. Sometimes it will actually attack with Psychic, but that's quite uncommon. The Executor is a bit of a threat as it can put us to sleep and try to hit through our double team. Arcanine usually comes out second to last and its Intimidate is still as threatening as at the start of the battle. And if Flamethrower hits, then it's basically game over since it's so strong. That was my first major attempt, and regardless of the loss, there was a lot of positive signs. But I do keep getting quite far into the battle, even reaching the Blastoise on occasion, but it only took me 4 more tries to get to the winning run. Pidgeot is out first and we just go for the throat with Return as it uses Aerial Ace. Our attack taking it down to the red leads our rival to waste a full restore on it as I chipped away with Steel Wing hoping for a defense boost. Sadly it didn't come, but a further return took out the Pidgeot and the rival sent in Rhydon. I go for double team right away, but it hits Rock Tomb, lowering our speed by 1 stage. But I didn't let this deter me as I set up another 4 double teams so that Pidgey is now at +5 evasion, then I just go for Steel Wing. Rhyhorn doesn't land a hit as leftovers takes Pidgey back to full health as it then takes out Rhydon. Next is Alakazam, who we could possibly outspeed if the Rock Tomb didn't hit, but it misses Psychic and 1 return takes it out. Exeggutor is going to be a bit annoying with its sleep moves. Aerial Ace almost takes it out, but adds insult to injury by hitting us with Sleep Powder and then an Egg Bomb. Pidgey eventually decides that having a nap in the middle of a battle isn't the best idea and takes out the Exeggutor. Going right into the Arcanine with a return does just under half due to the attack drop, but Arcanine keeps missing Flamethrower as we are close to taking it out, but for a full restore, of course. Pidgey keeps battling away and eventually Arcanine faints, leaving us with Blastoise, both of us at full health. It sets up a Rain Dance, which can be fatal if Hydro Pump hits, but we go for a return as it does around the same amount as it did to Arcanine. Next turn and it does try the Hydro Pump but misses as I try the Aerial Ace to see what is going to do more damage to the Blastoise. Rain continues to fall as Blastoise heals with a Citrus Berry and misses a Hydro Pump, giving Pidgey another chance to attack, and it's almost time for an epic victory, but the full restore. This was crushing to see as I was so close and it could be over any moment for me if it hits, but for one last return by Pidgey being a massive critical hit, we have beaten the Blastoise and thus the rival, and become the Pokemon League champion with just a Pidgey. That battle was incredibly luck based and with the evasion hacks and RNG a boost, so this victory feels really bittersweet. I'm sure if I hit level 100 I could have beaten this without double team, but speaking of level 100, in my last Fire Red Leaf Green video I said this. For my next Fire Red Leaf Green challenge, I will attempt the round 2 of the Elite Four, and that is a promise. Yep, I'm sure you can tell by the video runtime that I am doing the Elite Four round 2. What have I got myself into? So here's how we get to the round 2 of the Elite Four in case you were wondering. We have to register 60 Pokemon in the Pokédex and go through the post-game of the Sevi Islands. Luckily there are lots of very strong trainers here for us to reach level 100, and then go back to fight the Elite Four and Champion again with their new teams, new movesets and higher levels. This will definitely be the last time I do round 2 of the Elite Four in these challenge videos because this was painful to go through. It was bad enough winning the first time, but this is next level difficult. So here's how Pidgey looks at level 100. Nearly all of our stats are above the 100 mark, with speed being the best as defense and attack are basically on par. I used another PP up on return as I know I'll be needing it a whole lot. Also I'm only going to be showing the winning run against round 2 of the Elite Four as showing you 100 plus failed attempt is not fun at all. First up is Lorelei, who I reset against a total of 15 times. I had a run where I almost won, but Lapras lived on a single pixel of HP and hit through my double team. So here's how I won, and it's called double team luck. Dugong is out first and it's now level 64. I'll start off by brute forcing the Dugong as it can set up its own double teams, which is scary. Luckily 1 return and an Aerial Ace do knock it out. Cloyster is then when the double teams come out on my end. I only set up 2 before I went with the returns as Cloyster hits a 55 accuracy supersonic somehow. Pidgey hits return through the confusion and then Cloyster hits Ice Beam through double team, so we're both getting a bit lucky. Lorelei uses a full restore so we set up 1 more double team and take it out in 3 returns. Piloswine was a thorn in my sides in these attempts because it always hit Blizzard, but we got the critical hit to give it the swift knockout, as with Jinx, who is still a pushover like the first round of the battle, leaving us with Lapras. Can I knock it out this time? Well, thankfully yes, as Lapras goes just about half health into the yellow, meaning that one more return was enough, and that was a big weight off my shoulders after 15 attempts to get past the first trainer. Now for Bruno, who only took me 2 tries because of a new method I devised. For Steelix, I couldn't use Steel Wing on it anymore, so I had to devise a new method, and with them all being male, I taught Pidgey Attract. Attract is a move that will cause infatuation, which will make a Pokemon of the opposite gender unable to attack sometimes. This is going to be incredibly helpful as getting past Steelix in a nightmare. Oh, and did I mention he has 2 Steelix now? I got rid of Steel Wing as it has no more use at this stage of the game, and our other moves have same type attack bonus and are a lot better in general. He starts off with Steelix and I go in for Attract to stop it attacking so I can set up 6 double teams, then leading me to just chip away with not very effective moves. And I'm sure you can tell by the speed up on this clip that this takes forever, and Bruno even uses a full restore to prolong my suffering. A few very lucky crits helped out as the Hitmons went down to an Aerial Ace each, with Machamp only taking 2 Aerial Aces of its own. The final Steelix comes out and it is the exact same tactic as the first one, attract and spam attacks. Bruno also used a full restore in this one too, but then disaster struck. As I was just about to get the knockout, the PP of return and Aerial Ace both hit 0, meaning that I was stuck with attract and double team. My only option was to waste the PP of these 2 moves and use struggle, all while hoping I didn't get hit once. Steelix hit an Iron Tail which lowered my defense a stage, which was terrifying, but the gamble paid off as Pidgey did get into struggle range and beat the Steelix in the most unexpected of circumstances. Who saw that coming? Show of hands? No one? I thought so. That's probably the most trouble Bruno has ever given me, which is kind of embarrassing on his part. Okay, we're halfway there and fighting Agatha. Agatha is tough but not Lorelei tough. 2 of her Pokemon being Gengar and Mischievous both have Thunderbolt, which means bye bye birdie. But what really shocked me about this battle is all of her Pokemon are male. Now normally trainers will have Pokemon that are the same gender as the trainer, but either Agatha is a man or she wants to break gender norms. Either way, this is a lot better for me as I can use Attract on her Pokemon and set up double teams as usual, which is exactly what I did against Gengar. It did get in a lot of damage with a Psychic after putting us to sleep mid double team spam. When I got up the 6 boosts I needed and a critical hit Aerial Ace to take it out, Mischievous was a 2-shot with Aerial Ace as I then set up Attract on the second Gengar as I know this is the one with Thunderbolt and could easily knock me out in a single hit. I need all the help I can get as this one is a free hit KO and even gets full restored because of it. Her last 2 Pokemon I can use Return on. Her Crobat was one of them and goes down in 2 hits, and her Arbok follows the bat in the 2-hit KO zone. Because of this attract tactic, I won on my second attempt, which means this battle was easier than Bruno, and now that's what I call embarrassing. The final member of the Elite Four, and when I say this is difficult, I bloody mean it. This one took me 26 tries to get right. 26. Lance was quite literally tearing me apart. Gyarados has Intimidate, so immediately bad start, and the attack drop coupled with Thunder Wave was basically a reset most times, as getting through the battle with that bad luck was near impossible. I'll start with Attract and set up 4 double teams and then go for the attacking moves. I used a mix of Return and Aerial Ace to keep it out of full restore range, and next up was Kingdra. Kingdra only has one weakness being Dragon type, so it's very difficult to deal with at the best of times. I used Attract as it hit an Ice Beam for around half damage. It gets full restored after a second return, meaning that I just have to keep on hitting it and hoping it misses, which I get leading to Lance sending in his next Pokemon, Dragonite. It's more Attract and Return spamming, what else is new, while praying it never hits us. After defeating that Dragonite, Lance sends in his Aerodactyl, which hits a fairly weak Aerial Ace. Return is not very effective, so it's just a bit of a slog to take it down, as it sometimes hits Aerial Ace through the attraction and double teams. Finally, it's his weaker Dragonite. And what is with this Elite Four and repeating Pokemon? I use Attract and 3 returns to take this one out, but it does get healed by a full restore. But obviously it isn't enough, as Pidgey is victorious, and now we have undoubtedly the hardest battle of the whole game. Champion Battle Round 2. The only thing I remember about this rival battle going in is that he now has a Heracross and replaces Rhydon with something. What I don't remember is that the Rhydon was replaced with a Tyranitar, one of the strongest Pokemon in the game. So for the first round of attempts, I kept the same moveset that I used thus far. My plan was to attract the Heracross and set up double teams, as I know I can knock it out with a one-hit Aerial Ace. After that, the rival would then send in a Blastoise, and oh lord is it tough. I can hardly ever get past the Blastoise, and on the off chance that I do, he sends in Tyranitar who can easily take out Pidgey. I kept trying and trying, but no avail, and after 6 tries to be precise, before coming up with a new tactic, Toxic Stalling. My plan was to teach Toxic over Aerial Ace, as Heracross isn't too much of a threat and I can use Return on everything else. Then just poison the threats being Blastoise and Tyranitar, whittle them down slowly and get the victory and be done with this challenge once and for all. This new tactic of Attract, Double Team, Toxic and Return took me a further 8 tries to master, but I am proud to say that despite all this disgusting orangey abuse, I got a winning run. Thank the Lord! My plan at the start was pretty much flawless. I would use Attract on the Heracross, set up 2 double teams, and then use Toxic, and then my further 3 double teams. This is because the damage from Toxic gradually increases, and if I used it before my first 2 double teams, I wouldn't have much time to do the other 3, and it would force the rival into a full restore, which may be better wasting it on a weaker Pokemon, but I just wanted my setup done. It just means that Heracross will be in prime range to be knocked out from a Return, and then will come in Blastoise. Attract is used turn 1 followed by a Toxic. I'll then have to use Return hoping to knock it into Citrus Berry range, but not into full restore range. I luckily get into that sweet spot of damage and can knock out the Blastoise fairly convincingly. This plan was not foolproof however, as sometimes the rival would use a full restore early. Tyranitar comes out next and it has the ability that will set up a Sandstorm which will chip away at your health every turn, so leftovers in this battle is a necessity. Attract and Toxic the first 2 turns as we avoid most of its attacks, which is so critical as it is so powerful. The damage from the Sandstorm is recovered exactly by the leftovers, keeping us at a very stable amount of HP, which isn't ideal as it did hit us twice with Aerial Ace, so we're pretty much stuck at 109 HP for the rest of the battle. The Toxic doesn't do enough to take it out with Return prompting an early full restore. I wasn't anticipating that and just went for a Return, so I had to set up a brand new Toxic from scratch. Thankfully, it kept missing attacks and went down to red health again, but this time I anticipated the full restore and used Toxic so that turn would do damage and the increasing damage would start there. This made the difference as it gave us an extra turn of damage to take it out. Thank everything in the world that the Tyranitar is finally defeated, and Alakazam is sent out, and with recent history in this run, I was not expecting a challenge from it. It missed a Psychic as it survived on minimal HP from Return, but the rival's Tyranitar was his own downfall as the Sandstorm takes out his Alakazam. That was pretty funny. Exeggutor is out next and I went for Attract and Toxic again as it's been a bit of a bulky Pokemon in past battles. We almost take it out with Toxic and Sandstorm damage, but Exeggutor gets full restored and then takes a massive critical hit from Return, and just needing one more Return to faint, he wastes another full restore on it. Do you really have that much faith in Exeggutor? 2 more returns coupled with the damage from the Sandstorm take out Exeggutor. Another Sandstorm feint, you've just messed up your own team here, mate. His final Pokemon is out and it is his Arcanine, and I'm very grateful that he kept the Pokemon with Intimidate until last in the battle so that I wouldn't do the rest of it with -1 attack. I got in an Attract as it misses an Overheat. I can't imagine how upset I'd be if I lost just then. Due to my attack drop, I went for Toxic hoping that the residual damage will help me out a bit in his last stand. I used Return as Arcanine is infatuated by the sheer romantic appeal of Pidgey, and we just need one more attack to land, but Arcanine outspeeds us and gets off an Overheat. But it misses! Tabby can get off a final Return, and that is finally that. I have beaten Pokemon Fire Red with a team of only 1 Pidgey. I will never do the Elite Four Round 2 again. It took me a total of 44 attempts to get successful runs of those battles. But either way, that was always going to be one of the hardest challenges I've done. Even harder than Numel in Pokemon Sapphire. Pidgey has very little type coverage, poor stats, and if you do this run, expect to reset the battles a whole lot. But the battles that were easy in this run were incredibly easy, like how I swept Erica, and even Sabrina was a complete joke. I'm really happy that this challenge is over though, and I probably won't be using a Pidgey anytime soon out of PTSD. My next challenge is going to be back in Kanto though, as I go through the first games Red and Blue for another solo run. Be sure to subscribe to see what Pokemon I use. Also remember, if you got this far in this video, leave a like and a comment for any challenges you'd like to see me do in the future. This has been a mammoth video to narrate, so I'm going to go rest my voice for a bit, and I'll see you all in the next video.